A Bronx Tale about the U.S.-Israel relationship. Remember Congressman Eliot Engel? From 1989 to 2021, he represented the heavily Jewish 16th District of New York. The district includes affluent communities such as Riverdale, New Rochelle, and Westchester County, and a good portion of the Bronx. Engel was one of the most pro-Israel members of the U.S. Congress, serving as chairman of the powerful House Foreign Affairs Committee. In addition, he served on the Arab-Israeli Peace Accord Monitoring Group, the Israel Allies Caucus, the Human Rights Caucus, and the LGBT Equality Caucus. In June 2020, he was kicked out after losing the Democratic primary to a more progressive candidate. Engel was defeated in the June 2020 Democratic primary by former school principal Jamal Bowman. During the campaign, Bowman's Jewish supporters claimed he would be a strong friend of Israel. Shortly before taking office, he was interviewed and stated that he wants to be the bridge between his Jewish and black constituents. Yet, within days of taking office, he tweeted this: "Netanyahu must ensure that both Israelis and Palestinians have access to the COVID vaccine. This cruelty is another reminder of why the occupation must end." This false blood libel is being perpetrated by Israel's enemies in order to incite anti-Zionist sympathies. Here's the truth that Congressman Bowman either failed to recognize or chose to ignore. Israel is currently enjoying the fastest vaccine rollout rate in the world. Arab citizens of Israel are being vaccinated at the same rate as its Jewish citizens. This rapid rollout has already begun to have a positive effect. Israel sees 60% drop in hospitalizations for age 60 plus only 3 weeks after the first shot's given. The responsibility of vaccinating the citizens of the West Bank falls not to Israel, but, under the terms of the Oslo Accords, to the Palestinian Authority. According to the Oslo Accords, the Palestinian Authority is charged with the task of looking after the health, care, and welfare of its citizens. In fact, a senior official of the PA's Ministry of Health stressed this point, as reported in the Jerusalem Post. "We have not asked Israel to supply us with the vaccine. We are working on our own to obtain the vaccine from a number of sources. We are not a department of the Israeli Health Ministry. We have our own government and Ministry of Health, and they are making huge efforts to get the vaccine." While Israel has given quantities of the vaccine to the PA for humanitarian purposes, vaccinations in the West Bank are taking place far more slowly than in Israel. There are many reasons for this. The main one is, not surprisingly, money. Why should the PA, which receives billions in outside financial aid every year, not have sufficient funds to purchase the COVID vaccine? The following story explains why. Meet Daphne Meir. Daphne Meir was a 38-year-old neuromedical nurse in Beersheba. She worked along an Arab doctor, Dr. Ahmed Nasser, who described her as his best friend. She studied Arabic, and she told Dr. Nasser, "We are all neighbors here, and we should speak the same language." She had 4 children and 2 foster children. On January 17, 2016, Daphne was painting the front door of her house. Her eldest daughter heard her scream. The girl ran to her aid only to see a Palestinian terrorist stabbing her mother repeatedly. Daphne was pronounced dead at the scene. Her murderer was a 15-year-old boy who was caught the next day. His name is Morad Bader Abdullah Adayas. According to the Shin Bet, Israeli security service, the teenager was under the influence of PA-run Palestinian television that portrays Israel as a state which kills Palestinian youth. Since his imprisonment, Adayas has been receiving 2,000 shekels, or $620 per month from the PA through its Slay for Pay program. This week, Adayas' sentence marks its 5th anniversary. His compensation will be doubled to 4,000 shekels per month, or about $15,000 per year. The average family income in the West Bank is $12,000 per year. So, there's a question. If Congressman Bowman truly wished to be a bridge for his Jewish Bronx constituents, wouldn't he be better off, instead of unjustly scolding Mr. Netanyahu, by asking PA leader Mr. Abbas this question? Why do you have plenty of money for sponsoring incitement propaganda and rewarding murdering terrorists, but no money for COVID vaccines? Finally, as tragic as this situation is, here's the real tragedy. The incoming Biden administration plans to restore aid to the Palestinian Authority, aid that had been cut off by the State Department for financial mismanagement and support for terrorism. The Biden team wants to reopen the PLO Washington office and to increase its contact with the PA in Ramallah. A Bronx tale, a tale of woe. Thank you for watching.